Welcome to the Miami Heat Zone podcast. I'm your host, Martel Llewellyn. We're pushing up 5,000 subscribers. Make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button, and thank you for all the support. Today we have Kyle. Kyle, before we begin, where can the people find you on YouTube?
Intangible IQ Hoops. And then on the screen, there should be at IIQ Hoops, and that's on Twitter. We'll see about Blue Sky at some point.
Sounds good. So the Miami Heat, I believe they're 8-8 now. Where do you stand right now with this current Miami Heat team? You know, they're very up and down. Jimmy, he's getting hurt pretty much every other game. So what is your standpoint so far with this Miami Heat team?
Their record is kind of reflective of where they are at this point in the season and as a team. It looks like they can play with just about anybody. They get out to some big leads. That's still kind of a glaring thing that needs to be fixed is keeping leads. When you go up 20, you should move that thing to 30. Clutch games, a lot of clutch games as of late. I think they're a middle of the pack team for now. I was saying this somewhere else that they don't seem to know where they're supposed to be on offense still a little bit. It's kind of like running whoever offense. I think guys just got to get to their spots a little crisper. I like that Spo is not worried about egos as far as, or at least it looks like it, to move guys around to see what better fits. But I think also it's a reflection of the league itself, considering there's a lot of parity in the league right now. No team has 20 wins yet, if I'm correct. Top team right now is Cleveland and Celtics. Highest winning team in the West has got 14 or 15 wins. So there's a lot of parity in the league right now. I mean, the Rockets are number 2, just as an instance. So Jimmy getting hurt is just, I think some of it might be a little bit of age, but I think it's just like bad timing.
But don't you think he's almost proving Pat Riley correct in terms of him not being available? Because let's say he does play tonight, right? Does that mean we're gonna get a 40% Jimmy Butler because he has a tweaked back? So it's pretty much almost as if he's sitting out of the games, because even when you see the last game, he probably didn't have a shot until maybe the second quarter. He finally scored some points. And like I said, for a guy where he wants the extension, he claims he wants to be in Miami, I have not seen anything like that. Has he had a few games where he's had 20 points per game? Of course, but I'm not going to praise you for something that you're supposed to be doing. I think that this is a very lackluster team in terms of, Terry Rozier, it just came out that, he was kind of pretty much playing hurt. Bam Adebayo, he's been, only God knows where he is right now. And Tyler Hero, he's been playing amazing, which we'll get into all of them shortly. But in terms of Jimmy Butler, what do we do with him going forward? Only because if he's not going to be playing already, and we're 16 games in the season, and once you just start to see all these little injuries, the back, he's always twisting his ankle, but especially the back or the knee and then the ankle, where do we move going forward with Jimmy Butler? Because he's not necessarily showing like he wants to be out there. Because like I said, how could you go long stretches without scoring the basketball, a rebound or an assist, anything?
It seems like when he is engaged, the Mavs game is an instance of what he can do when he's fully engaged. I think he's looking to defer a little bit more than he should, because I think this Heat team is dangerous if he plays seriously throughout. And of course, he's going to pick his spots. I think D Wade mentioned this a few weeks ago. He's older, so he's going to pick his spots. However, and I guess this is where I am. He's 35. He'll be 36 next year. If the team is going to win and he's on the floor and he doesn't no, don't get me twisted. I'm not saying that we should lay in the cut and he shouldn't give any effort. But if he's not averaging 25 a game, but the Heat are winning and he's doing other things, I don't mind it. Now, if he's on the floor and he's not able to create anything, whether that be defensively, offensively, and that doesn't even mean scoring wise. If he, as you mentioned, assists, rebounds, steals, and then defense, being able to stay in front of his man, stuff like that, that's where I'm like, okay, what do you do with him? For one, that Charlotte game was an interesting kind of like microcosm of what it's like to play without him. Um, he didn't play the rest of the third or fourth. Uh, I didn't like, again, this goes back to the glaring issue of losing leads. If you're up 20, try to put your foot on the gas pedal. Um, but what I think my other thing is rotation wise, I think Spo is still trying to figure out how to manage his minutes. Um, but Jimmy's not D Wade in the sense that, I think he did stuff with Wade before where he was coming off the bench, kind of manage his minutes here and there, stuff like that. They're not similar players in that sense, but I think Jimmy's at the same age where he can play at a high level in spurts, but we're not going to get that for all 82 games or 41 games even.
But Kyle, no one's asking for that. And I think that's the part that we can all agree on. We don't need Jimmy Butler to play 82 games. I don't need him to drop 30 points per game.
Right.
But we can see when he's engaged. And it's crazy that we're asking him to try. That's all. We're not asking for 20 shots, 20 points, because there's some games, the Miami Heat can get away with and engage Jimmy Butler with 15 points per game. We can get away with that. Now, when you look across the Eastern Conference, because like you did mention them, what do you think about the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers? I still think the Cleveland Cavaliers are fool's gold only because they always have great regular seasons, but then they always fall apart when it comes to the playoffs. So where's your standpoint right now with the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Boston's an interesting team for me, as of course they're defending their title. But aside from the threes, they actually don't scare me that much. I mean, they're going to add Porzingis back into the mix here, if he hasn't already come back. I'm not overly concerned with them, and only not from the sense that I don't respect them as a team, because obviously they have the gold, but there's not a lot of fear from that squad. Like, we know what we're going to get from them. They're going to take a lot of threes. It's either hit or miss. That's just how the league goes. When they aren't hitting games, and even their games that they have won for the most part, those have been close games with teams that, on our end, as far as Heat fans, they played close games with Detroit, Charlotte, some other teams, where it's like, oh, well, they're beatable. Which, I mean, any team is beatable, but like they're not this, juggernaut that's running roughshod through both sides. So the Cavaliers is a different conversation. I think they're playing together, and that's going to translate to wins. But can you do it in the postseason, as you mentioned? That kind of reminds me of what year was that? The Hawks. I think they were number 1 seed that year and didn't make it to the finals. That's kind of what I get from them. I don't want to sit here and say that they can't do something, because maybe there's a flip. I mean, Max still hasn't played a game yet, if I'm correct. Not that he's a huge piece of them, but he does some stuff for them offensively, so they're getting it from other places. But I would say that this season so far is kind of Adam Silver's league, if we're going to be honest. He mentioned wanting parity. He mentioned wanting teams across the board to keep their teams and to kind of build off of that, kind of an identical thought process to Pat, where he's given this roster, some of the core guys 6 years, right?
Well, I mean, sometimes it just comes down to, this kind of era. So what I mean by that is guys really don't care about the NBA like how they used to, like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, or even 10 years ago. The NBA has changed a lot because of all the guaranteed money, and guys like Ben Simmons and Zion Williams, not to go off track, but they might cost, the NBA going forward to get rid of the guaranteed contracts. Or you're going to have more contracts that are very, very heavily, dosed with all these different loopholes to stop you. So the minute you start to act fugazi, boom, we're not going to be able to pay you your money anymore, and we're going to cut you.
Well, they did that with Tyler, right? One of the incentives on his contract to get a lot, almost, I can't remember how much money it is, but I think it's $1 million. He has to win Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, all these different loopholes. Yeah.
So I think teams are going to kind of go that way, where they incentivize getting your money. It'll be $5 million here, $1 million here, $10 million here. And so instead of you getting guaranteed money each year, you're having to try to earn that part of your contract. Now, do we see Tyler playing some effort on defense? Absolutely. Is he going to win Defensive Player of the Year? Absolutely not. If Bam can't win it, there's no way Tyler's winning it. Just as a disclaimer. So you're right. I do think that the league is going to move more towards contracts that are incentive based, where guys only see maybe 65 to 70% of what that full contract looks like. And that may re-engage players in committing to not only their craft, but also like, hey, I'm going to bring my best effort as a player for this particular team. And then if you add the CBA, which has been one of the
Terrible.
big talking points, I mean, you got guys like, and I know people like to douse water on players, but you got guys like Lonnie Walker, who's not even playing in the United States right now. And there are other guys who still haven't been signed based on the backflips you have to do to get things done in this particular CBA. And the Heat are right up against it, with the contracts. And I don't think that has anything to do with Heat's mismanagement so much as it does. I think we were asking Andy for miracles.
Well, hold on now, because see that and that kind of goes into that next segment that I have is, was the Terry Rozier trade a mistake? Because when you really look at the overall thing when it comes to that trade, okay, yeah, we gave up the expiring deal. Okay, we gave up the first round pick. That deal ultimately limited us in terms of making moves for this season. People knew Tyler and Terry were not going to work. In terms of the cleanest fit, if we could have got somebody like who's the guy from the Pelicans who they just signed? I don't know why I can't remember his name.
I know you're talking about. Name just too.
But yes, just players like that.
DeJounte Murray.
Yes, DeJounte Murray. More of a two-way player, more, guys that can really help this offense, not really just kind of like a high-level six-man. Was the Terry Rozier trade, was that like a mistake for you? Or like, how do you feel about him overall and what he's doing with Miami?
I think we wanted to patch a hole.
Yeah.
Kyle didn't want to be here. Him and Spo bucking heads, which didn't have to be said. You could tell that that's kind of where that was. At this stage of his career, saying he should start. Kyle's been in the league for a long time. I mean, we watched him in Memphis. We watched him on the Raptors. We watched him on the Rockets. He's not that player. He's heading to the twilight of his career. So that was like okay, you don't want to be here. We're going to make a move that gets you out of here. And we get somebody remotely close from a scoring perspective, which somebody said that it was inflated because it's Charlotte. That's a fair argument to make. Would have I preferred a healthy Lonzo Ball as a defensive, player next to Tyler? Absolutely. Are there a lot of guys that we can swing trades for? I don't know. The question is this: if the Heat are not committed to just trading anybody, because I think it's been put out there, they're not committed to just randomly trading. It has to be a significant upgrade. Then Spo's move to moving Terry to the bench. Now, granted, if you're paying a guy 20-something million, first, you don't necessarily want to play him off the bench. He should give you minutes in the first unit. But also, I think with what you have in the starting lineup, he doesn't optimize what they need. If we're being honest, the Heat needed a playmaker in the starting unit. You got Bam, you got Jimmy, you got Tyler. They've added Duncan, and it was Rozier. Nico is falling completely out of the lineup. I don't know if that has something to do with his injury. I've yelled this from the mountaintops. I don't think he's being played to his best strengths. He really is not a 4. He's more of a swing man. He's definitely a small forward.
But he also told them that, and a lot of people forget this. And this is why, even though people say that we have been hitting on the draft, I still think we've fallen short just slightly, especially when it comes to Jovic and Ware. Because if you're in a Jimmy Butler window right now, why would you go get KEL'EL WARE and he's not ready? Why would you go get Jovic and he's not ready? Now, if you're going to try, which you can't blame the Heat, because I kind of see Jovic kind of like a Kyle Kuzma type, where you're 6'11", you can handle the ball, you can shoot the three, but it's like what you said, they don't really utilize him the correct way. You know, he even said it, I'm not a 4 and I'm not a 5, and he didn't want to play it even in the G League. So when you're, so when you have those issues, now we have roster construction problems.
Right. And somebody was saying, well, we need, are you saying that he should have higher usage rate? I'm not saying Jovic should have the ball in his hands all the time. I'm saying, I've pointed this out, he calls for where guys are supposed to be, where they can get the ball in optimal spots. But this team does not play European basketball. There's a lot of dribbling. There is some player movement, but there isn't always guys moving the spots to get the ball in good position. And Bam's a victim of that, where he's gotten deep post position or he's made a hard roll to the basket, and maybe 3 seconds too late do they pass the ball. Turnover. I'm not saying Jovic is the fit. I'm saying he has an IQ that, hey, this guy made a cut, or when he makes cuts, for instance, he doesn't always get the ball on the cut or on the roll. So I don't know what Spo's going to do with that. He's got it, but Jovic can't be on the bench playing 0 minutes. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And then I'm not saying Kashad's even a fix. I'm saying, why pull him from the G League, where he was starting to get some playing time? He was able to kind of facilitate some things. I know most people don't like to base things on G League stats. Okay, fine. But if you are going to pull him, play him in one of these games so we understand that the stuff translates or it doesn't translate, and you move him back. I mean, Drew Smith has gotten some minutes, which in his role, he's done some things disruptively on defense. So I think Spo's trying to maximize the use of this roster. People are getting on Pat for saying this team just needs to figure it out and get a chip.
Hold on, though. To some degree, he's right, though.
I agree.
Because now, there is no excuse. Jimmy Butler's pretty much healthy. Bam, Tyler, and Terry, they got to figure that out. And if Terry was hurt this whole time, my man, you got to speak up.
Let folks know, man.
What's the point of playing on a bad foot that now you can ultimately damage it even more going forward, and then now you're out even longer? I mean, thank God we have those 5 days off. But he's absolutely right. They need to figure this thing out. There's no reason why this Miami Heat team has been together this long, and we're still dealing with the same issues. And like I said, some of it is due to the roster construction, but especially right now, Alex Burke should be playing every game. I have yet to see this man miss a corner three. Thank God he's not playing Josh Richardson anymore. But guys like Pele, which he's been phenomenal, and I think that he was a huge diamond in the rough, plug and play player. He's out there hustling. He doesn't care whatever he has to do. It's contributing to winning.
Right.
When you look at KEL'EL WARE, though, was that pick a mistake? When you see Dalton connect and then you see McCain, we did need a point guard, and it's like what I said just not too long ago. If you knew KEL'EL WARE wasn't technically ready to break your rotation, if you knew he had all these deficiencies, even though I understand why they got him, Bam has been very vocal about playing the 4, and I see the vision. He's athletic. You know what I mean? All the skill set, it's all there. It's just not going to be ready in time, not in a year. So was that KEL'EL WARE pick a mistake? Should have they went with somebody more ready, like a McCain, like a Dalton Connect? There was other guys on the board. What do you what do you think about that?
I'm sure you remember, I thought they were going to get Ware. This was like months before the draft. And I said, okay, well, there are guys that are on my draft board that maybe Heat fans are going to be like, why is that? It's a Heat pick. He was one of the guys that I thought long-term, they weren't just drafting for now. This wasn't a Precious kind of situation where I didn't know what we were getting for Precious. I'm surprised we didn't get to Tyrese Maxey. That's just my opinion. But I think the Ware pick was for two things. One, he does shot block. He has the natural ability of gravitating to shot blocking the ball. Two, he's not bad at covering, at least on defense. We saw little glimpses of it. Granted, his foot speed and lateral quickness is going to need to improve, but this is his first year. I just feel like if you have somebody 7 foot, there are games where we played, and all this, he's going to get pushed around. Listen, he's either going to get stronger or he's not going to get stronger. But not playing him in games where we're getting out rebounded 52-31 in some cases, play him. See what happens. If he's going to grab rebounds, he's going to grab rebounds. But at least let him get a chance. I don't think it was a mistake from the perspective that it doesn't seem like he doesn't want to work. If this was one of those things where he was a player who just didn't want to improve, didn't want to get better, that's not what I'm hearing from what Spo is saying and other coaching staff and other players. He doesn't seem to be pouting on the bench about not getting play time. He just fits in his role. Dalton would have been cute. I wouldn't have been mad at that pick, but I think the Heat went size because of what needs to be fixed. And if we're going to extend Bam's career, his prime, then eventually those two are going to end up on the same starting lineup. So it wasn't a mistake. I know there are some people a lot harder on him than maybe I am, but iced the game last night with 2 free throws. Clearly, he's putting in the work to be just thrown in those positions and knock down free throws. Those are high-pressure free throws no matter where you are. Everyone's like, oh, he doesn't extend the floor and shoot threes. That's going to come. That's going to come. I'm not rushing him to be Chris Bosh. Like, if I don't know anybody who sees him like that, but he's not going to be a stretch big year one.
No, but we don't need him to be a stretch big. Listen,
there are people who want him to be, though. There are people who want him to be.
But eventually, but my thing about KEL'EL WARE is, especially when we all know that he has to gain the weight and size. That's cool. But when he's out there, you block shots and you rebound the ball and you get those alley-oops. That's it. From now and maybe to even year 2, go almost into year 3, if he's only doing that, I'm cool with that. Because you have to have a Bam Adebayo that can roam on defense. You have to have a Bam Adebayo that can be in the corner sometimes and not worrying about, blocking every shot and being close to the rim and protecting the rim. And no, we have to be able to have a shot blocker that's behind Bam so that when you look at the Miami Heat, you're like, I'm screwed because even if I get past Bam, I have a 7-footer waiting to block my shot. That's it. That's all I need from KEL'EL WARE. Block those shots, catch those lobs, and I need him to rebound better. He's too big. Even though he doesn't have the size, he's too big not to be rebounding at an elite level. I'm sorry.
And I think that's my thing, though. I don't think this season he's played a total of, we're at 16 games now. He's played a total of 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not enough time for him to get used to A, the speed of the NBA, B, to understand rebounding in college is not rebounding in the NBA. These are grown men you rebounding against. And then he'll have an understanding, okay, I need more hip strength. I need more core strength to get the ball off the backboard, off the rim, without compromising his ability to shoot free throws and keeping them up. And then also he's gonna be able to find out he needs to get stronger for post up. Because he does have a back to the basket game, but that worked in college. That's not going to work against a Gobert or a Porzingis, stuff like that. You're going to need to, between lateral quickness, post work, and just adding to his skill set. I think he has to get stronger from that perspective too. But I would love to see Spo give him at least 5 minutes in each game. I'm not saying for him to have 20, 15, or even 36. Give him 5 minutes. 250 in one quarter, 250 in another quarter. That's a long time.
Spurs where he just goes out there and hustles, block shots, and does the things that we need because, it's a shame that we're still struggling with the scoring and the size and the rebounding and the athleticism. And we're in year 6 and 7. You know what I mean? Now, in terms of trades going forward, the Brooklyn Nets, they pretty much said they're willing to trade everybody. The Wizards, they're looking at trading Kyle Kuzma. And they're also trying to trade Jonas Valanciunas. The Chicago Bulls came out today and said that they're trying to get rid of $85 million worth of cap between Zach LaVine, Vucevic, and I believe Lonzo Ball as well. If you can pick one player, who are you trying to add to this Miami Heat team that's reasonable and that can also fix one of the issues that we have, which is scoring, three-point shooting, point of attack defense, and size? Who are you trying to add to this team that's as realistic as possible? Because I don't see the Miami Heat trading Tyler. He's having a very good season.
No, not this year.
They're not trading Duncan Robinson right now. He's been playing lights out. And like I said, I just don't really see them trading Jimmy or Bam. Or what's your most realistic trade?
Okay, so you mentioned Chicago, so I'll go through them through teams wise. Chicago wise, would I love Zach LaVine on this team from an athleticism perspective and scoring perspective? Yes. Are we going to pick up his contract? No. Would we add Vucevic here? Would he be nice to be nice next to Bam? Yes, but they're likely asking for Jaime. They're asking for
Well,
Ware.
so far they're starting at 2 second-round picks, so that's not terrible. That's pretty much for free.
Now, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but the Heat have done a very weird thing with asset management on the draft pick side. So they may be reluctant to move draft picks at this point, especially since the Thunder owned their first round pick next draft. So the Chicago Bulls, I mean, Lonzo would be great from a defensive perspective. I would like him here. His injury history is spotty. When he's available and healthy, he makes teams better. He's also a guy who isn't asking to score 30 a game. He likes to move the ball. He is a playmaker naturally. So it would be Lonzo if he can stay healthy. Brooklyn is a little more intriguing to me. And they're intriguing to me for 3 reasons. You got Cam Johnson there, who I wouldn't mind having on this roster. He's 6'8". He can shoot the ball. He's 28. Not mad at that. At one point, I used to think Ben Simmons. Don't think he's ready. I love the thing about him is, and I'm sure you would identify with this, is he has all the tools physically. He's 6'10". He's got a 7-foot wingspan. He can pass the ball. He's got some IQ, but he's at the rim not taking shots. That can't happen.
He's broken mentally.
I don't know what's going on here.
He's broken mentally.
I don't know what's going on. And it's not like he doesn't want to play basketball, because I hear people, oh, he doesn't want to play. No. Something up here is not working. And he needs to see a sports psychologist, because that's a psychological thing. But the guy who has my attention on the Brooklyn, 2 guys, Schroeder, because he does play defense, he does pass the ball, he is a smart player, he's a very Heat guy. And then the other is who I'm sure they're that asking price is crazy, is oh man,
Dorian Finney-Smith?
No, the point guard. The point guard. 24, number 24. His name just slipped me. I don't know if he's available, but what is his name?
Point guard.
Yeah.
Schroeder is definitely on my list, like what you said. Dorian Finney-Smith right now, way too high of an asking price. 2 first-round picks. I know that at one point they were saying Kyle Kuzma, 2 first-round picks. All those things are way too high for me.
Yeah. What is his name? I'm looking at it now. Cam Thomas.
Yes.
From a scoring perspective,
yes.
Who's not afraid to take shots, who's not afraid to take big shots, who is doing this with or without.
You mean Cam Johnson? Isn't it Cameron Johnson?
So Cameron Johnson is the small forward. Cam Thomas.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes. Okay.
They got 2 Cams. Cam Thomas is a hooper. And I remember when they said they were making him available, I said, "Oh, swing him this way," because from a point guard, scoring particular position, he's 6'3". I don't know. I don't see him as much defensively, but from that point guard position, you need somebody to score. With Tyler, I would take Cam over Rozier, just from scoring perspective. And then probably even defensively. I mean, right now he's averaging 24 a game and 3 assists in 17 games. Now, granted, I don't know what Brooklyn is looking to move, because their record actually isn't that bad this season. They've come to play. I don't know what's gotten into them, but they've come to play. Now, I don't know what they're looking for trade-wise, and if we have anything they want. But between Schroeder, who's averaging 18 this year, that's more than Rozier is averaging. I don't want to pile on Rozier, but I'm just saying from that position, Dennis is a better point guard. He's a better get guys organized. And if he's doing it with a team that has no defined star and they've got a decent record, then to me, he would work here. He plays defense. I mean, he does it in the Olympics. He does it for his home team, for Germany. So I think it would be important to take a look at him. Don't know what they would be asking for, but I would not be opposed to him. And then Cam Johnson is the other one. So it's just a matter of figuring out what they would want from the Heat in order to get one of those guys on this roster. I think it does help with this season.
All right. Now, right before we close, Kyle, where again can the people find you?
Tangible IQ Hoops. And then there's also IIQ Hoops. And that's on Twitter. That's where I've been. I haven't been on my main account for a very long time. It's been focused on basketball and hoops alone. So you'll often see me chatting about a whole bunch of stuff. I am in my master's program, which is why I haven't been posting on YouTube nearly as much. But with the holidays rolling around, I should be getting back to that. So Tangible IQ Hoops.
Guys, so make sure that you guys go to his channel, hit that subscribe button. Same thing over here. We are trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. And thank you guys for all the support.